Dude, I thought you were gonna leave me hanging again, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up, man?
Nothing. I was just listening to Skinwalker of the Pentagon again.
I was trying to think. What was the documentary that Corbell did? Did he do the Skinwalker Ranch documentary, or
Yeah, he did Hunt for the Skinwalker is what it was called, right? Yeah, it was called Hunt for the Skinwalker.
I don't think I ever saw. I mean, I didn't see it, but I don't know many
Yes.
people who did.
So have you read both the books, the Skinwalker books?
No, I haven't read anything, and I haven't even seen the show, dude. Admittedly, I haven't really read much about
Okay.
it.
So we'll talk about that shit tonight because I've read the books, the show. Show's all right, and I think they're doing legit stuff there. But the books, man, the thing is this: what's important about them is essentially like Hunt for the Skinwalker, kind of a summarize of it. But the first book's kind of breaking down before Bob Bigelow kind of gets in there, right? Talking about the experiences the previous owners had, and it kind of sets up like the area, Vernal, that we now know today. You know, you can kind of watch the show and it kind of get that gist of it. And it just kind of talks about all those experiences. But where it's important is, I think, Skinwalker, the original book, was super important for just the wow factor, right? But this one connects the two, and on top of that, because Jay Stratton in the book, it's Axelrod. Like at the beginning, they're talking about like, was it Lukatsky? So James Lukatsky literally meets up with. This is how crazy it is. He meets up with Bob Bigelow, goes to the ranch and he's there within the first hour. He sees that tubular bell thing that you see that post on that Joe had posted.
No.
Okay, let me explain a little bit more. What's up, Red Panda? So what had happened is Lukatsky's sitting in the kitchen with Bob Bigelow, and they're talking about finances, right? And this is the very beginning. Now the thing is, like Calm Kelleher talks about, they've seen shit. They've spent so many hours there. But the fact that Lukatsky comes on the property and he's sitting down, and he's talking, just watching, and in the kitchen, this technological object appears. And what it looks like, the only thing he calls it a tubular bell, and because it looks like some kind of a, I want to say, what are those solids, right? It's literally like a four-dimensional something that's bent over in itself. I'm having trouble thinking about it right now. So he's watching it, and he looks away, and I'll post a picture of it in there in the thread so you can kind of get a gist for it. And then he's a scientist, so he's taking notes. He's literally looking away on purpose to see, okay, this is here, this is going on. Okay, now he's writing this shit down. He never mentions it to anybody, and he's doing this whole thing, and he writes it down. So Bob and them, I can't remember. I don't think Bob ended up seeing it, but he saw it there, and he writes it down with the first hour, and it was obvious that it was right there, right? And the reason I get to this because what's important about the second book is the hitchhiker effect. Would you say, Shake? Shake, you want to talk, bro? Anyway, I was going to say the hitchhiker effect is super important. So Axelrod, Jay Stratton, that's who I brought up in UAP Med. If you watch his video, you don't want to talk, Shake, okay? If you watch Axelrod or Stratton's video, I swear to you, one thing I know, when you see a veteran with PTSD, it's the same kind of look when they talk about a subject as triggering. That look in their eyes or talking about it, it's almost like a panic look, and he has that. That's why I said, hey, I wonder if we could get him to talk about this, because I know he probably hasn't thought about the PTSD angle, but after his first visit, Axelrod, Jay Stratton, imagine this shit. This is how this unfolded. So he gets back home, and he's a pretty busy man, black projects, all these kind of stuff. So he's always kind of gone and stuff like that. Well, the first thing that ends up happening, his wife starts seeing shadow figures in their house and in their room, and weird things happen. And then one of the things that's super connects the two. I don't know if you haven't read both, there's a part in the first book where they talk about scientists with NVGs see a portal. And out of this portal, they watch a no-necked wolf-looking creature just kind of crawl and dart into the woods. Well, fast forward to the second book. Axelrod had came, basically brought something home. His wife's standing in the kitchen and she's looking out her window and there's a fucking wolf on two legs. That's what it is. It's a wolf, no neck, standing up on two legs. And it's just kind of staring at her. And she's shook. She's like, wait, I'm going. She didn't want to tell her husband because she was scared shitless and she was losing her mind. She never mentioned it. Never mentioned that wolf thing, right? And she's unknowing about the first book and all these other things. So our kids had also been seeing blue orbs shooting around their rooms. And then you fast forward, the kids are home by themselves, and one of the kids starts yelling for his older brother as he's looking out the window. What do they see? There's a wolf. And he's standing in that same tree on hind legs. It's just all unnatural. No neck. It's a fucking wolf. Just huge, no neck, and it's standing. And both the brothers watch, and they were they saw enough of it that when it took off, it was a fucking wolf, but it ran on two legs, and they could watch its hair moving as it's running, right? And this continues, and I do believe, I want to say that Jay Stratton's wife, I'm not saying all of these are connected shit though, right? I want to say Jay Stratton's wife who ended up being diagnosed with some kind of a tumor or something like that in her brain later on. Am I right, Shake? I cannot remember if that's something extra that came out, right? Gosh. Welcome everybody to that old bitch you, me, and UAP. Anybody else in here read the Skinwalker books? I know John did. John, you gonna talk?
Well, dude, the reason that I asked too about the Corbell one is when he was. I'm guessing he was there. Again, I haven't seen it. I don't know about how much he dug into it. But recently, when he was talking on the Weaponized with the Stratton, he just seemed like so focused on the nuts and bolts, and he was like, not even getting into the woo or wanting to get into anything related to the topic. But I found that kind of surprising if he really dug into Skinwalker, um, that he maybe isn't more into looking into those topics.
Oh, bro, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, he's the opposite, dude. I actually remember a video specifically kind of pissed me off. He's on Joe Rogan, and somebody mentions like experiencers, and him and Joe Rogan kind of roll their eyes and chuckle. Like people, like like people that continuously see them type things. That's like and you'll find more and more, and that's why I don't know if you saw Eric Weinstein's tweet today, and I kind of retweeted it, but I replied, man. He's talking about some of us don't find this fun. We don't want to take it other than belief. And I'm just like, dude, imagine if it's not a belief. The shit's there and it still isn't fun. No one takes in that kind of shit into the aspect. But the whole woo side of this is the biggest side. The craziest part is I don't understand. And I know I tweeted today, I said, if more people would take experiencers and use those as data points, just use them as data points, maybe you'll find something that we're missing. Because obviously, the experiencer is the connection. Okay, if you take away the experiencer, what do you have? You have nothing, right? You have no event, nothing seen. So you're by dismissing what they're saying, what they're seeing, what they're feeling, especially in an event that we're going to say woo, which is we'll say it's some science that we don't know it is. It's kind of ridiculous because 98% of this is woo. Is yeah, I just knew when to look up. How many times have you heard that? They may not know as an experiencer that it was something along those lines, but it takes people, I guess, that have seen it a couple times or done it a couple times, and they start realizing, wait, how am I always? What's going on with this, right? So, I these books, while you are correct, do the paranormal woo factor is insane in these books. But look, I don't know Jeremy Corbell, and I'm sure he's a smart man. But there's probably a reason he sticks to technology. Some of these things are so off the beaten path, the concepts that are hard to grasp. And if you go down that path, Astro, you run into things like remote viewing, you run into things like precog, things that may make you uncomfortable or may make you think it's a joke, or maybe he's just saying, I need to read my audience. Ain't nobody going to believe this part, but they'll believe this part. I can see both of those. What do you think, man?
I don't know, man. I'm not a big, um, I guess, not believer, but I do think it could occur. But in terms of like the hitchhiker stuff, um, and the locations, I think for a skinwalker specifically, I feel like Bigelow would have held on to it if it was extremely valuable in producing something that was there. So it is kind of strange to for him to get rid of it. But with the hitchhike, I mean, I definitely think people like Corbell and Knapp have talked about the paranormal stuff. I just think that it's so focused on the physical evidence stuff. But I do think the Stratton interview was really interesting to listen to.
I'll say that look at the nest, shake, put a couple things up there. Well, one, the tubular bells. That's basically what Lukatsky saw, right? And fast forward, see that picture right there? This is another synchronicity. Um, apparently, while okay, Lukatsky found this picture later on. This is supposedly the closest thing he could find, and there's a an album. I guess a guy wrote some music, and this was the album cover. Well, this was later on down the line. I guess a couple of the people were moving somebody's shit, and they were taking all the stuff to like I guess like a thrift store, right? At the very top, this album, that out. I mean, it's like it's not even a popular album, right? And at the very top of these people who probably are the only ones who would get any kind of relation to it, see it. So synchronicities throughout the book, if you play it, I mean, it's easy for us to read the book and be like, wow, this is kind of wild. But I'm curious what you guys think about. Dude, I had some shit happen the last two, like, what? No, this last day of synchronicities that just blows my mind. And I'm just like, this is wild. So,
But how would you monitor it though? You know what I'm saying? Like for me, when you talk about group of like even super experiencers, um, you'd have to be able to sort of monitor it so that you'd be able to show that there was some sort of difference happening or the effect taking place, or be able to show that you could have these craft appear, like it would have to be constant monitored of some just to be able to provide the evidence to show that something's happening.
my man, thank you. You're the best co host ever because usually I'm so high, I can't remember shit. And then you just kind of trigger me with it, right? So I'm down in Vernal, Utah. I'm at the, no, it's the UFO symposium down there. And he's the first doctor from the original Skinwalker, Jim Scott, right? And he's up on stage, and this is stuff I ended up connecting together later on. But he's up on stage and he talks about, um, what's the name of the group? The group of 100 super experiencers. The government supposedly is no, I can't remember the name anyway. That's keeping an eye on. And actually, Jim has created a device that each one of those experiencers has on them. And it has instruments. Those instruments, when they see, feel, or like, oh, I saw this, it can detect whatever they're doing on those, right? So, yeah, that was a good point, Astro. They actually, for super experiencers, the people that are part of this group, they actually have supposedly each have devices. That way it can detect wherever they're at, what's going on in that situation. And I know that Jim Simleyman, who's a part of this group, talked about on Calling All Beings, man, that he said there used to be like 100 of them, and there's not so many of them anymore, and that's because of suicide and shit. Imagine that, man. He made that comment, and I'm like, what? Yeah. He said there used to be a lot more of them. Imagine being hounded so much. And Jim talks about he has crucifixes on his bed. He's not religious. He has everything from every religion scattered across his room because he does not know what it is. And he actually has a good quote. We need to stop focusing on the craft. We need to focus on what's driving, maneuvering behind the craft, right? That's all. It's smoke and mirrors. Hey guys, look at this pretty thing. It's different. Hey guys, look over here. It's really different. We need to focus a little more on what's behind those things, right? So yeah, that was a good point, Astro. Supposedly there's devices that can do this. What's up, Paul?
Hey, what's up, guys? How we doing tonight? Thank you for the space. You're talking about Skinwalker Ranch. I think the best evidence as Skinwalker is the art the rock art on the walls. I mean, those show evidence right there, don't you think, of other beings visiting Skinwalker and a little outside of Skinwalker just from the rock art.
You know what, Paul? Actually, that's an excellent point. So when I was down in Vernal. I'm gonna mute your mic though; it's a little bit loud. Okay, so when I was down there, that's a good point. Rock art, amazing shit, right? I went to not only I didn't go to Skinwalker, I went to Blind Frog, right, which is right there, same spot, and the art that they have on all these properties is pretty insane. Some of the stuff they have on Skinwalker depicts what looks like portals. Well, they brought a guy who literally reads this stuff, correct? And he talks about that's just what they use for portals. And this is all stuff that's here. So you have to ask yourself, then they talk about later in these books, all these, the portals. And the reason I said, is it all connected in this, this space type thing? I'm curious. One of the things I like to do, I don't like to look at things that are so different. Klaus does it. I know he does a lot. You take pieces and you put them together. You know, the old Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Charlie scene. And I find myself just things like the portals thing. How many times and how many cases in Yakima, portals, Yakima Nation, right? You got the Ute Indians, and then you have Cahokia. Supposedly, I was just reading the same thing about Cahokia, which is in Illinois. Supposedly, there's portals there as well, and that's why there's this thing about the Earth light. What is it? The Earth lights, where they talk about it being a possibility. It's something to do with geological, something along those lines. So who knows the connections? I don't know. I'm curious if anyone in here has ever made any connections that you don't think anyone else has. Besides, I mean, Klaus, you can come over and talk anytime. I know you made billions, but there's lots of cases. And here's one more example. You take PJ, who was from the Nimitz incident. He was flying in the Hawkeye, and he's the one that saw the freaking Tic Tac right to the left of him, right? And it's funny because he actually took a picture of a photo that someone had taken outside of a Hawkeye, and he kind of someone drew in like a makeshift what it looked like. Well, that looks to me the Lonnie Zamora incident all day long, from the feet on. Matter of fact, the Tic Tac looks like every time I see that picture of the Tic Tac where it's just you can see the little leg things and stuff. That's what Lonnie Zamora's looks like across the board. So I was just like, that's wild that all these things happen. And most people don't know that at the same time the Zamora thing happened, I think it was the same day, that's almost identical craft was seen in France. Same the signature on it had this little arrow thing pointing up, right? Imagine that. Same day. Seen across, and so is it the same thing? Now, maybe it is. This is where it gets wild. Is it literally the same thing by saying like they had like time? If these craft do what they do, they can control gravity in any way, gravity bubble of any kind. They could do all the things that we would see as magic. So we may be thinking of something being here when it's not here nor there. So it's a hard thing to grasp, right? By the way, I'm high on mushrooms, guys. So I'll be fucking talking forever. Shout out to Portland. I'm going to tell you guys some synchronicities actually. So I came up to Portland because I was losing my shit. Most people know I have struggled with PTSD and stuff like that. I've been struggling. I have no doctors, nothing right now. I mean, I was had my ropes in, so I came up to Portland for one reason only. I didn't really say much. Do mushrooms. Back in the day, I had microdosed, and that shit really kind of saved my life. And so I came up here because it's not illegal. And I actually ended up tripping on mushrooms last night, and my brain feels better. And I woke up this morning. This is wild. I tripped my balls off last night, and I've never tripped on mushrooms before, ever. Microdose, like I said. Tripped my balls off. And I saw grays. I was hanging out with 3 grays last night. And I was very aware they weren't there, but they were there. And then I woke up this morning. I don't know what the fuck happened last night. I woke up this morning with just a hoodie on and no pants in my windowsill. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? So I get up and I'm like, damn, I feel good. Everything's going to be all right. Right? I'm able to think. You know, I was just top of the morning. I walk downstairs and I'm standing there and smiling, probably looking like I just had sex or something. But and this guy walks up to me and he's like, hey, man, are you a Wounded Warrior? I was like, yeah, I'm an alumni. He goes, really? I was like, he goes, you suffering from PTSD? I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, my name's Dr. So-and-so. I'm actually getting ready to open the first psilocybin clinic here. Would you be interested? Because I want veterans. And so he starts talking to me, and I'm like, wait, what? And then we start. He goes, I'd like you to come through, and then we can help get it ready. We could do video, you know, your podcast, whatever. Because then I said, dude, I literally just tripped last night because I said that's why I came here and I had to do it on my own because there is none of that. And he starts kind of tearing up, and I said, because he looked at me, he goes, it saved my life, and we both kind of said at the same time. And I said, fuck, dude, mine too. And then we hugged, and he gave me his number. So I'm going to work with him to make sure veterans know this place exists and stuff. But then I'm 10, 20 minutes later, my wife knows I trip balls too. And she goes, what the fuck? She goes, look at this synchronicity. My boss just said he wants to see if our CBD plant can run psilocybin. I said, what? He goes, yeah, he wants, because they're in Oregon, that plant. I said, really? She goes, that's crazy. That's more than crazy. I said, that didn't make any goddamn sense, right? That's beyond wild. I came up here for a reason. And here I found that reason. And then by doing that, I ended up actually meeting the guy that I needed to meet so I can help the people that I need to help. That makes sense?
Yeah, bro, that's a synchronicity right there, dude. That like manifestation shit. That's tight though. That's a tight story.
Yeah, and so you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to work with him. We're going to do a podcast thing. I may actually do a mini doc. I'm going to just go up there. You'll see me tripping balls and stuff. I'm going to start doing trip reports too on this because it's important. Oh, wait, Red Band, get him up here. It's important that people know, because one of the things, you know what, guys, I want to say this right now. My favorite people in the world are UFO Twitter. You think I say that a lot? I'm not fucking around. When I came up here, people thought I was wilding out. The number of people that called me, DM'd me, reached out to me because they were concerned. They should have been. I was hurting. I couldn't tell nobody, right? I was fucked up. I was hurting. No doctors, no place to go. It was just bad. And I come up here, then I had all these people reaching out to me and stuff. And I'm like, this is fucking amazing. For someone who's not had anything besides my wife and get love in my life and stuff, it's like, dude, I don't even call names out. Just the people who call to check on me. And people put me in my place, like my brother Toby and Mike, man. Hey, dude, are you all right? You're fucking wilding out right now. You know, and they were right. But what a wild thing to say that I'm here because of my experiences. I'm also here because synchronicities that keep leading me to the same place, man. And these people, you people, and one of the things that kills me is everyone hating. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on, man. What fucks me up is, man, I don't think you understand what some of you people, regardless of how shitty some of you think of each other, have done for me. You may be a piece of shit sometimes, but there have been times you don't even know some of you guys have fucking stopped me from a point. It's just like, oh, cool, you know, or just a joke or things like that. Because I don't have, if you guys saw my phone, you'd laugh because you'd be like, wait, it's only people. I only know people from UFO Twitter. Only. The only people in my life that I see in person are from UFO Twitter or talk to on my phone. So I'm here because of a UAP experience. You know how goddamn hard it is for me not to be a religious fanatic? Every day I sit there and ask myself, and it's silly, what are you trying to tell me? And by me, them, what's going on? This is silly. I pray, but not to God. I pray to whatever the fuck is going on because, again, this is, if you only understood where I was and where I'm at now. What's up, Paul?
And I understand exactly what you're talking about, man. I was hooked on heavy drugs for a while too, for years, because I had multiple surgeries on my body, and the doctors just flooded me with Percocets like crazy. And I was in a dark place for a long time. And what really saved me was, UFOs, UFO Twitter, listening to podcasts and all that stuff. It made me become more spiritual. It led me to a path of learning about life way more than I used to know. Like, all I knew was doing drugs and trying to survive with my family, you know? And now, listening to all this, every single day I listen to it. Like, some days I'm like, oh, I'm tired of listening to it. But I always go back to it because I feel like it saves me. And the spirituality of it is what I think helps the most for anyone like us, like who's got issues like that. And I've been hitting a lot of synchronicities a lot lately too. And I don't know if it's been freaking me out or what, but ever since I stopped, right now I'm on this drug called Suboxone, which helps get off, Percocets and opioids. But ever since I stopped, I've been noticing so many synchronicities. It's out of control. Like, it's out of control, like every day. So I understand exactly what you're saying, Shane, and it's cool. And I think sometimes it hits people like us who have these tragic issues that go through life harder, and you see it more. Like, I wake up every day, and first thing in the morning, I'll see a synchronicity on my way to work. It's crazy. Like, I'll see triple numbers, 444, 333, 111, every time, every morning, every day, multiple times a day, every day. Or I'll listen to a podcast one day about, like, the other day I was listening to Dolores Cannon about karma, and I was loving what she was saying about past lives and your karma with past lives, and how she says if you did something bad in a past life, when you reincarnate, you'll feel that what you did in the past life, that was something bad. Like, something will happen to you, like you'll have a child that's deaf, or something like that will happen in your next life. And it was weird. I kind of resonated with that. And then today I'm listening to Ryan Bledsoe's podcast, and he's talking about karma in the same thing. And I'm like, damn, that's a crazy synchronicity. And this is a podcast I listened to 7 years ago from Dolores Cannon that I just listened to the other day. It was a 7-year-old podcast. And then today, Ryan comes out with an episode about karma. And I'm like, damn, and he was saying the same things, and he was going through all the karmic steps, and he was hitting on every single one, and I was resonating with every single one. It's crazy, the synchronicities that I've been feeling. But the only thing I haven't seen is, I've never seen a UFO. I've never seen anything. I might have saw an orb, but I'm not sure, because it could have been a satellite. But it's just, I feel different ever since I've gotten off those, and it's freaky, man. And I see life in a totally different perspective, totally different.
Hey,
So
Paul.
I don't know.
No,
Yep.
don't say you don't know, bro. You do know. You're doing. Stay clean. Stay where you're at, bro. And I'm gonna say that's a good point. When I had literally was at my lowest, and I can look and see that. And when I say spiritual, I don't see this as, oh, I'm a god. It's the fact that when you're an atheist, you have nothing. You're shit. You feel like shit. All of a sudden, there's something that's greater than anything, and it's like someone takes that book. They said, "Hey, kid, this is where all the answers to life are," and they fucking kick it. They tear it up. All of a sudden, you're like, "Wait, so there's more to this. It's not just misery. I can figure this shit out myself." And you mentioned that karma shit. Actually, in my tripping last night, I actually was. That you brought that up. That I was trapped here. I was in a trap. I was in a loop. That's exactly what I was getting out of my shit. That I'm repeating this shit for something I've done. So funny you said that. Little fucking Grays told me that shit. But stay clean, dude, because one of the things that I Actually, I was a heroin, meth, all that kind of thing. John Lucas in here, he found a paper one time that talks about a meth addict's brain and the activation afterwards, what happens, that type of stuff. I'm curious too if some of these things for addicts, mental illness, all these things, and if one of them, let's say, because we're so different in different ways chemically, that it takes a person being negative in this in the brain or this chemically having putting this into his body for them to be able to access this or to whatever type of shit. But I'll say that I'm still firm in because I think life is trauma. I think trauma has something to do with it. Like the more you're fucked up, the more you pulse.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's tough getting off hard drugs like that. Like I've been off for about 6, 7 months now, and I still think about them every day. Every day, I just want to take one. Like when I'm bored out of my mind, those used to help the boredom, and it's so tough. But I'm just trying to get through. And really, what helps me is this synchronicities, this positivity, this new way I think about life because of UFO Twitter and the podcasts about aliens and UFO. All that just changed me. It helped. It really did help. And these spaces help, you know, a
Good,
lot.
Paul. And I'll give you another secret though too. With time, that'll get a little bit easier, and it'll get to the point that you kind of forget. Like I've been it's well, I'm in Portland, so this kind of threw me out. Like literally, I hadn't had a craving, hadn't thought about drugs in so long, and I've been blessed. It's been 2 or 3 years since I felt like even. It's odd because you'll get to a point where you're like, "What was I thinking?" Right? Well, here I'm walking down the street in Portland, and I just literally that 12 inches seemed like 12 inches. My skin's crawling thinking about it right now. And there's a homeless man, needle in his arm. I tasted it. I felt it. I watched him pull the needle back. I watched the blood come in. Go instantly. I was just like my body wanted, and I just felt shitty, like just like what? But that is a physical reaction, and that's going to happen. So those go quick. But here's the best part: a typical craving is 15 minutes. So I would always make myself like you just gave yourself something. I researched something or whatever it took for 15 minutes for that shit to pass, and then eventually that'll be fewer and fewer in between. And what you're doing is the cool part is this: you found your higher power, which is synchronicities. That's your focus. That's the thing that's important, and that is. Uh, it's odd that someone once told me, regardless if my UAP experiences were real or not, they brought me to the Church of UFology, which saved me. I laughed, but that's right. So it, you just keep doing what you're doing, man. You, as long as your true north may be different than other people. So be very careful about listening to other people tell you how to live your life. You know what's right and wrong, what you can and can't do. But people tend to tell you not to have fun because it's too much for you right now. That's bullshit, man. You got to do what makes you feel good because you got to replace that shit that was making you feel good. So you're doing it, UAP, this kind of shit. Don't let people call you a nerd. Hell, fucking Jerry Corbell. Oh, I laugh every time I think of it because I'm a huge rock nerd. I like geology. He's got what was it in his that video? Somebody they were talking about a guy that was out in the desert, and they were looking at an underground alien civilization. He's like, "Well, how did he find him? Why was he out there?" And then George Knapp goes, "He was there looking at rocks." And you hear Corbell, "Fucking nerd." That always makes me laugh, dude, but that's okay because shit, I'd rather be a nerd than a dead, strung out junkie, right?
Yeah, you probably took that personal, right? He's looking for rocks and shit. She's like, what?
I did, dude. I fucked with him too. I've been sending that shit and I sent him like 400 pictures. I said, bro, if you only saw the amount of rocks, man, my wife about to leave me because I literally got 2,000 pounds of rocks I still have to process for gold and stuff because, like any guy with ADHD, I do shit and I just don't finish. So it became too much and I can't deal with the platinum portion because I can do gold all day long. Platinum, gold, noble metals. See, that's all part of my story too. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on with how I'm good with this geology shit, but I am. And I can tell you I have platinum stuff at my house. sounds weird, but it's not. And now that I talked to Kevin, I'm pretty sure I'm right. And I'm going to try to see if Kevin wants to help me out. Be like, hey, what's going on? Because he had made the same comment, that obsession, that passion. And here both of us are, both just literally. I stumbled on a video to find Kevin and realized that he was going through it like me, PTSD. All of a sudden, he's just obsessed with minerals for some reason. That's what he's doing. And it just does not make any sense to me sometimes. It's just like people take these little photographs, they cut pictures out and they just throw them on a cardboard, right? But all mine seem to make an actual family photo. It's like people mean to do random shit in my life, and it's all sticking together, and I can see it. So it's wild.
I think when you pay more attention to it, and with like synchronicities, and the more it feels like when you lean into the UFO topic and even like create content for it, the synchronicities start to happen, and even happen with like Keel. He talks about um that the more that he explored it, the more that it seemed to happen to him, and then even the people around him. So it was like innocent people, bystanders of people around him. So it's not even like the hitchhiker effect of where the location is. It's more of like if somebody gets super interested in these topics, it almost like rubs off on other people because the person is so interested in these and exploring these topics.
Yeah, Astro, it's actually rubbing off on my daughter. She's only 10 years old, and she tells me about synchronicities she has, and I just laugh about it.
Hey, you want to tell you something? I'm going to be real. And it's hard for me sometimes because I know I talk about my experiences and stuff in rooms, but I wonder sometimes because they sound so wild how much people believe me. Like, do people really think that I see them all the time? Because I do. And then the hitchhiker effect, my wife, my kids, they're all recording them on their own.
I
Regardless,
think they're all personal though, bro. Like like it for it, the meaning of them is a lot more personal to people. So when you tell the story to somebody else, it doesn't hit the same as like, yo, I was listening to this song this morning, and then my kid, or my kid was singing it earlier, and then the song was playing later. Like that doesn't hit the same when as opposed to like you feeling it, and you're the only one. Like the synchronicities, I feel like are for only yourself. They're not for like you to be like, oh, this happened to me. It's more of like, damn, for you to yourself to be like, oh shit, like that's kind of crazy.
but I mean, I'm curious though. Let me ask you this though, Astro. Like you got Jim Simney Band, Chris Bledsoe. Trying to think of some other people are kind of like super experiencers, right? Well, take any of these books, right? Let's say Keel. We're going to say Keel's a super experiencer back in the day. Any of these. Do you think it was always there? Like we talk about, we just were blind for some reason. Maybe, and this is just what I always think, perhaps because now the society, we lost an edge. Let's say that's that edge, right? And technology's taking that shit from us, okay? So maybe it's those things. I wonder, well, I'm trying to think where I route this back in. If if something like something that would, I guess you would say, an event that would take out technology and things like that, that you always see. Um, Shit, this is the shit that gets me. Like Bledsoe talks about 2026 or 2027. You have cases, people, events, years, things like that. Is it a matter of someone trying to tell us something, right? Like a precog or future type event,
So what are we
or
talking
someone
about tonight?
motherfucker, always up in here. Anyway, back to now. I forgot where I was at.
Do you think it's like an
Anyway,
outside influence of somebody trying to get the
that's my
message
point.
across, and the super experiencers are the ones that are able to like hear it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like what Bob Bigelow is trying to figure out. If like there's like a overall message being relayed, like metaphysically, and then these people who are having these intense dreams or out of body experiences and contact with non-human intelligence, like they're actually getting the message. They're the ones that are like having these experiences. The thing though that's frustrating is if you look at what their conversations that are happening, like it's all different, and it's not all like the same. It's not all like it's 2027 is this is going to happen. It's like all different times, all different types of beings, all different types of messages, all different types of agendas. And so that's what the frustrating part is it's not always the one thing.
Do you
Astro. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh,
No, go ahead. Go.
okay. Do you think it could be these certain people who had past lives, their past lives, where they were just straight up aliens, a lot more than humans? So they were like an alien before, their life now, and then now they're just a human. So they're the ones that get contacted much easier because in their past life they were just an alien then, and now they just became human. So they're the ones who can see it more. Do you think it could be something like that?
It could be.
I think it's tough. Yeah, go ahead, Shane, if you want to answer that, and then
No,
I'll go.
you answer. I'm gonna
Well,
answer.
I
We got
think
the
it's tough
elevator.
for
We got
people
control.
to even if that was happening, for somebody to have that experience, to realize that, and then be acceptive of that experience is so hard today because of this so much skepticism around the topic of coming out and being like, I was an alien in my previous life and this is what, you know what I'm saying? Like it's so much more sensitive to people than just like a large group of people. Like it's got to be such a large scale message, I feel like, and it's such an individual type of experience when people get those type of things, that it's so hard to share that with other people on a confidential or just a confident way, to be like, yeah, I had this experience and it's kind of out there, it's crazy, but it explains my previous life. Like even on research, I think a lot of the evidence that we're looking for right now is nuts and bolts based stuff, and the science of consciousness and this experiential side of it is so far back, is so far behind, that even experiencers are going to be tough to be able to explain it and have science back it up.
We're not. I got
I
it.
just killed it. Sorry.
Yeah, that was good. Thanks for that. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you might not know, like, you're not going to say, yeah, I was an alien before. But a lot of people say in their past lives that, um, they felt like they were a star being, or an alien, people call themselves star children or something, that they felt like they came from another planet. And now that when they're here, they're the ones that are getting contacted the most. That's what I kind of hear a lot when I hear abduction experiences or people
Yeah,
who've been
yeah,
abducted
and
a
I was
lot.
gonna say, even with like abduction experiences or contact experiences, people talk about almost like they've made a decision beforehand or an agreement, or that it's been put into place even before they were like born, so that they would have the experience to realize this. So it's interesting to look at, yeah, but it's just really hard because there isn't a same thing across the board. Again, it's all different type of things that people describe, which is frustrating.
I
Yeah, could
also
could
asked.
could it be a contract? Like they say about you sign a contract before you come into this lifetime. Could it be like just some certain people signed that contract to be contacted in a way? Because that's
Actually,
what
I just.
Dolores Cannon kind of says, that you sign a contract every single time you reincarnate. And
She's
even
not
when
the.
you die, you like the way you die is you signed off by the way you died. You sign off by who you pick your parents are, and all this stuff.
Well, Paul,
You
she's
know.
not the only one that says that. There's not. If you go on to the channel on YouTube, the Eyes on Cinema, there's actually a case in Mexico where the exact same thing. He says that he was shown the contract. When he asked why, he said he signed a contract X amount of time ago, right? And that's why they keep visiting him. and they're going to never stop all these different lifetimes. What do you guys think? You think that's a legit thing? And that this is not just one, two people. This is something that's taken seriously across the board. Like that's, I know, like Earth is a prison planet. That's what they call the prison planet hypothesis, right?
No,
So
I heard
that's
it's
the
a
dark.
school planet, like a school. Like you're here as a school, you're just learning, and you're just constantly trying to learn with your soul. And if you don't get it right, you die, and you just come back, and you just keep trying to learn. And
That
once
sounds
you've
like prison,
learned,
Paul. Paul, that sounds like
yeah,
prison.
yeah, you're right. It does. It does. It's
Well,
like school. It's like half school, half prison.
I
Yeah, it's the same
saw
thing, brother.
Ray jumped up here and is into dreams. I wonder, Ray, have you ever had like a previous live stream, or what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I have so many thoughts. This is such great conversation. I always, I've always, since I was younger, have had recurring dreams, that I'm drowning, like that there's, a flood or a tsunami. It's on, on various bodies of water, all types, even in a stream, a tsunami could come. So I always kind of figured maybe I had died that way in a past life. But after watching Ancient Apocalypse, um, I started wondering if it's like, precog of the next cataclysm or something. I don't know. But I also have had some weird dreams that, like, on my parents' property, they have a greenhouse off of their kitchen, and I've had several dreams of like Revolutionary War soldiers, like all bloody against the windows, like in the snow. Um, so I don't know. There's just so much I could talk about dreams forever.
I don't have. What's up, John? Go ahead. Actually, fuck you, John. I owe you this fuck you from last night, dude. Go ahead, John.
Man, I was just about to leave. Yeah, dude, I'm not a fan of the soul contract idea. Like, it just sounds like total horseshit to me. Like, first off, like a contract, what? That's like a legal document. Are you telling me like ETs or non-human intelligences are concerned about the legalities of abducting and visiting you? Like, what? Like, who's the higher court? Like, who's the governing body to enforce that contract?
You seen Men
Uh,
in Black?
Oh, yeah, no.
Well, I actually had a thought about that too, when that was being discussed. I think on one hand, like, we're kind of assuming that aliens or, extraterrestrials, beings other than us have the same kind of life cycle as we do. And, like that's assuming that they also die. And, I don't know if
Like,
that's fair to assume. And then I think the contract thing does kind of also assume I guess, is that like anthropomorphizing these beings? I don't know, just kind of like assuming that they are the same as us in a lot of ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, it does make. Yeah, it does make sense to me. Yeah.
Go ahead, Panda. What's up?
Oh no, I was just gonna say yeah, that makes sense. And for me, I just like I'm of the school like I really wouldn't trust anything an entity tells me. Like, oh, you signed this, you told us we could do this to you. Like, I wouldn't trust it. But also, I do think there is kind of sometimes there seems to be like a thread of like consent for certain entities, like CE5 in a way. Like you have to like consent to wanting to see it. But who knows? That could all be a lie too, and like, you know.
That's the truth right there, actually. Um, One of the things that bothers me about these rooms, and I like having experiencers come in and tell their experience, and that's the best part because for me, I think every one of these things is connected, but they're different. Sometimes they come in the room and they say, well, no, it's this because they told me. I have trouble with that, just for the simple fact what you said, Red Panda. All you have to ask me as a person that has any skepticism, you should have one question right away. Well, what if it's a lie? You know, and I'm not saying it's the case, but that's a really good point. So I have, I'm not saying, like, just here's another example. Bledsoe, all these, every bit of what I think they're saying is goddamn true. I'm going to go with Keel and Valet. It's a manipulation. It's bullshit. They're tricksters. There's something we're missing.
I think Keel was the one who said that, that his conclusion is that this place is owned and all others are warned off. So if there's a sense of ownership, you know what I mean? There's probably, stipulations or, I don't know, again, who knows what's going on specifically, but if there's some level of feeling of ownership by them, of us, or this place, who knows what that kind of entails.
Dude, that's a good point. Because if you take this back, ownership. So that would say that one of the things that always gets me, what's up, Andy? Welcome. Things that gets me, Mike, is the fact that they're so restrained. Right? We're all still here. It's almost like there are rules. We're just not aware of them because maybe because I have heard stories about, kidnappings, abductions, bodies, things like that. I get all this. But that also goes back to the whole shadow war thing that you just said. This is owned, but doesn't mean everybody's going to follow that, right? I've always been curious about the fact that so much of this stuff happens, but it seems to be some rules. Like they're almost kind. I know it's hard for me to say the word kind when someone's getting abducted or probed or raped, basically. But I'm saying when they could do so much more, why just that minimal? And what's the reason behind that? It seems like ownership, like parenting type stuff, right?
Or like a cow, like a bunch of cows in a factory farm saying like, oh, we all still exist. Humans, if they wanted to destroy us, they could. Just a thought.
I think again, it's the DNA. Like, if I were to take just a random guess, is like, whatever is going on this planet is important to them. A DNA warehouse. This is their lab, and we are a part of it, fortunately or unfortunately. And who knows how long that? And I think this is, people like Peter Levenda suggest this. Who knows what the plan is, if they have a plan for us, or if we're just part of the ecosystem here that they've accepted. But I think we have to be concerned, about how we are affecting their warehouse. If they think they own this place, how valuable is what they think they own here, and are we fucking it up?
Also, I do think there is something too to like them not wanting to show us something before we're ready to learn it. Like certain things do seem to work that way in life, and it would make sense like that they would have to wait for us to like come to our own terms with things and figure things out on our own before they can do certain things,
I think too, what UAP Mike was saying, I think like genetically DNA in terms of like consciousness, I feel like there's a focus there. I do wonder, well, we talked about soul contracts, but in relation to that, I wonder if the one of the funniest and I think relevant shows to this is the Rick and Morty episode where they go to like the video arcade where they do the simulation of a human. But I feel like is it to the manipulative level where they've been able to insert themselves into a human body and then have communication through these non-physical means to then manipulate the ways, or is it strictly like through mental means, which we have no awareness of? It's kind of like, how is it taking place, to what deep level, even when Keel talks about it, is it happening to us?
What's up, John?
Hey, cheers. I was removed from the space twice. I'm just curious who removed me.
I don't think it was on purpose. I think what had happened is I invited someone to be a co-host, and they had you blocked. Is what ended up happening. I'm pretty sure that's why it happened. So yeah, I wouldn't it was accidental, but yeah, that's what it is, John. So we got it fixed.
Yeah, can confirm. I unblocked you though, so happy you're here.
Yeah. Sorry
Oh,
about that.
you unblocked me. Are you a
Yeah.
co-host?
Yep. So that's
Yeah,
what
I
ended up happening.
unblocked you though. I unblocked you though, so you're here. So what's up?
Is that what's up, John? Is that what you want to ask?
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
just
just I'm really curious about this particular topic, so I'm glad I was able to come back.
yeah. I'm glad you're here too, John. It was an accident. Sometimes when you have people that are blocked, you bring people up, it kicks them on out of here. And shit, dude, we got PJ in the house too. What's up, PJ? Welcome.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. When I was talking earlier, my wife called and then I had to get out of the space. So that's why I just stopped talking and left the space. But yeah, that was it about the contract. And I think I caught a little bit of Ray saying about like maybe we're anthropomorphizing. That's all I heard before I got out of the space. But yeah, I mean, it could be true. But the way I look at it is from my human self and values, if I signed any kind of contract in the beginning that makes it so I have no memory, like I feel like that would just be null and void. Like, you still can't get any kind of meaningful consent from doing something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's true, but then like, I was just seeing on the news the other day out here in California, this woman and her boyfriend who are in jail facing charges because they basically tortured their 8-year-old son to death. It was horrific. It was terrible. I ruined my day just reading about the story, and I'm like, who signed a contract for that? Like that is maybe this person was like, you know what? I was a king in the last life, had everything I want. I want to see what it's like to just be on the other end. Maybe that's true, but it's hard for me to grasp that. I don't know. You see the pain and suffering, and I just feel like it's a cop out to say like, oh, well, you signed a contract for that.
Well, what if that pain and suffering is what they're feeding off of, right? Gnosticism. What if they're here to just psychically drain us? No, no
Yeah,
one's
and
into the psychic.
I
Go ahead,
wonder
Ray.
if like like our soul, like we have missions and like purposes to fulfill, like maybe it's like some theorists think that and I wonder if what John said at that last part, if there's if somebody was a king in one life and then they're like, yeah, I kind of want to see what suffering is like. um I just wonder if that kind of satisfies some kind of balance. Like you can't have the pendulum has to swing, and I don't know. I wonder if there's something in that. I still don't really buy the whole soul contract thing though. Yeah. What's up, John?
Well, my bad. Go ahead,
Uh, I just would like to say I agree. I think that it's an oversimplification, this whole karma thing. And at the time when it was created, the idea was created of balance. Everything from the people who came up with it, every they lived in a much more simple agrarian lifestyle, and everything was in balance with the seasons and with the crops and the idea of labor, and that people had um, they had designated roles in society and the caste system and all that. So the idea that people could work up over generations um, through the caste system. And if you consider the mortality rate back then, just with labor, it was horrific as well. So you can understand the creating of an ideology that allowed people the idea, the fantasy that they would escape from their set roles
Let me
and
ask you a
not to
I
question.
think
complain too much to their ruler, because the ruler would find his own comeuppance when he passed on.
I wonder, real quick, is karma is separate from soul contracts, right? Like they're not mutually exclusive. Is that true? Like it's not my understanding that a soul contract is the
Yeah, I would agree with that,
same.
Ray.
I agree with that statement.
Okay, because while I'm not so sure about the soul contract thing, I do tend to agree, or find a lot of value in the idea of karma. It makes a lot of sense to me. Just like what the energy we put out there, there's effects, and it'll come back to us. Whether it be, I don't know, in this lifetime, if it's tomorrow, a year from now, or in the next lifetime. And I feel like, kind of like with tarot, there's a thought that, or the idea of like the soul's journey. And I think, with karma, over lifetimes, we work towards achieving, or completing that, whatever our soul's journey may be.
Yeah, maybe. I think so. I guess like two things. Back to kind of like my original concern with karma or soul contract. I think they're fascinating ideas, but I would not like people to ascribe to it to the point that they lose empathy or sympathy to real suffering in the world, where you see something horrific and you just write it off in your mind emotionally, like, oh, well, they signed up for this, or yeah, they were probably an asshole in a past life, so they got to come in. I don't think anyone in here would do that, but I would see that as a potential danger of that line of thinking. And then for karma, I mean, yeah, maybe it is true, but maybe it is just some BS that they came up to appease the lower class, like you hear about Christianity was definitely pushed on peasants and poor people because it's easier to keep them poor and subservient if they just think if they listen to their masters and praise God, they'll be rewarded with heaven in the end. Maybe karma is the same way, to keep people subservient. If you just feed them this story that, like, oh, don't worry, it sucks now, but those people have it good. They're going to get what's coming to them in the next life. When maybe
I
it's
mean,
not true.
I don't think that this is like this is Michael Newman, like life before life stuff. I don't think this is coming from like a group of people to like the lower class. This is one of the many like reincarnation theories, I think that people don't like conclusions like this because they don't want to be responsible for their own actions. And I don't think that even if this is true, that means you need to jump to a conclusion like saying everything's everybody's fault and not having compassion. I don't think that it's mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm a big fan of, I think we all, kind of make our own choices. And I agree that on some level that definitely can be, it's too easy to just be like, yep, okay, that's just, how it is. They deserved it or whatever. But I think I'm kind of like thinking about karma and reincarnation maybe a little bit differently. Like for example, I think, if somebody maybe has a trauma in their life, maybe and they don't, work through it completely in this lifetime. I feel like our traumas or our unfinished business is kind of what carries over, not so much like a caste system kind of working up. I see it more as like the emotional, like psycho spiritual soul work, if you will.
And I will. Actually, you know what, guys? I haven't done this at all tonight. Do me a favor. Like, retweet the space. We got more people in here, the more we can talk about, right? And the more people we bring in their opinions, which don't matter because we all know I'm right. No, I'm just fucking around. I'm glad you guys are here. Do me a favor, too. I've got a podcast. Check it out. Actually, I've got 3 podcasts. So check all 3 of them out, right? I got Roswell UFO Symposium. I have Mind Escape, who I'm a co-producer and co-host on, and Military Witness to UAP, which is Rob and Shannon, my co-host. So I'm only here because of my experiences, and that's wild ass shit, right? Like literally, I just had an interview with Kevin Day and James Fox and stuff like that. So you guys know it's important to me, especially like veterans, experiencers, mental health, these type of things. And shit, I'll be darned if I don't have a place that I can talk, raise money for Wounded Warrior, do these type of things. So do me a favor, retweet this space. I'm probably should put my campaign for Wounded Warrior in there because I was literally halfway to the mark, right? I've got $3,600 from you guys. You guys did that shit, so I'll put that back in there. So retweet it and let's keep talking. Anything UAP paranormal related? Because I'm with Keel. It's all related.
Yeah, hey, so I'm reading the new Jacques Vallée Forbidden Sciences, and if you guys haven't got it, it's the first Forbidden Sciences book I've read, but I'm really liking it. I'd say maybe a third of the entries actually have anything to do with UFO. Um, but you know, some of them are just random notes and observations and musings throughout his day. And you find somebody who's like truly in love with his wife and is a romantic and he's so thoughtful. And some of my favorite parts in the book have nothing to do with the UFO UAP topic. It's just his musings on life and society and interpersonal relationships. But I'm finding all these little nuggets in here that are fascinating. So one, he had this ranch in a place called Spring Hill, California, and he just makes a little note talking about the early days of NIDS acquiring Skinwalker Ranch and how it'll be great to have this living lab to try and test and analyze the phenomenon. And he just has one blurb about how that was the whole reason he bought his Spring Hill Ranch and what he started there. But then he never brings it up any further. So I look up Spring Hill Ranch, and it's about 45 miles from Folsom in California. And I remember there was a Pasolka interview that she did like 4 years ago. And during it, it's like there's a commercial break, but it's still recording. She thinks that they're at a commercial break. And she just is kind of speaking freely. And she's talking about how she's aware of this longitudinal study for experiencers and the phenomenon in the Folsom area that's been going on for like the last 30 years. But she doesn't expand on it any further. And then I know she's close to Jacques Vallée, seeing him make a little blurb about it in his book and being close to Folsom. I wonder if that's the project she was talking about. Does anybody know anything about what Diana was talking about or what Jacques Vallée was doing at Spring Hill? I'll put that up to the room.
Say it again.
I think they were looking for what they called is the gifting field. Like they go there and they might have, I think they thought something might have crashed there or something happened there, and they called it the gifting field. And I think they went over there to check and see if anything was there. I might be, I'm not 100% on that, but I think that's what I heard.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I definitely want to get his earlier versions of Forbidden Science too to see if he talks about it more. But yeah, that was the first I'd ever heard about it.
Can you repeat what you said Diana said about it, or I missed that part? Sorry.
Yeah. So Diana was talking about, she was just mentioning that she's aware of a longitudinal study that's been going on since like the 70s or 80s in Folsom area. And it's looking at experiencers and them interacting with the phenomenon. And that's basically all she said about it. And then it's like they came back from commercial break and they just went into a different topic. I tried asking her about it before, and I think she just sent me a winky face emoji. But that was it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've heard of that.
And where is this area again? Where is this located?
So the area she mentioned, it's called Folsom, California. It's a little southeast of Sacramento. You might recognize it from the famous Johnny Cash song about Folsom Prison. And then where Jacques Vallée was talking about is called Spring Hill Ranch, or it's where he had a ranch where he was talking about studying the phenomenon. And on a map, it's about 45 miles from the Folsom area. So I was like, oh, that's pretty close. I wonder if that's the same thing, especially because of how close she is with Jacques. That would probably be something he would have told her about.
Did you ever read her book, American Cosmic? Because she talks about
Yeah.
stuff like that and going to gifting fields and how they call it a gifting field when she's
All right.
gone
Well, the
with
gifting
Jacques
field,
Vallée
I
and
think,
Gary Nolan
is
before.
I don't know. I think it's Vegas or Arizona or not Vegas, Nevada, Arizona. That part of the country. I don't think it's in California.
Oh, yeah. So the gifting field is like an archetype in religion, right? And she was writing about the crash debris, or where they recover artifacts, where that's the gifting
Well, it's
field.
an actual
Is that
location.
correct?
That's the
Oh,
nickname
okay.
for it, is the gifting field. It's covered in tin cans or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, is that what it is? Because I think that's what they just call UFO crashes in certain
Right,
areas.
but Diana Pasulka's reference to the gifting field, because I read American Cosmic, and someone can correct me if I have this mistaken, is that Tim Tyler, or whatever his name is, Tim Taylor, brought Diana and Gary Nolan out to a debris field that was covered in like tin cans, right? I guess, I don't know, to cover up some sort of metal detection. And Grant Cameron later commented that this is what, I guess Tim Taylor had offered to take other people out there too. And I guess it was colloquially known as the gifting field. I'm sure there's probably references to other ones, but this one, I think when Diana Pasulka talks about that, I think she's specifically referencing where Tim Taylor took her.
John, any other interesting things from that book? Because yeah, that's the one that just dropped, right? I think he talks about Dino
Yeah,
Beaver in
yeah.
there, right? I saw someone post.
I'm not sure. I'm only probably about a third or halfway through. What I really like is just how candid he is, just with the whole ufology community. Like in the early, like in the 2000, he's talking about how he just wants to drop ufology altogether, how he's burnt out, and all these names and theories and hypotheses that have become part of the lore that we know so well. He's just kind of throwing shade on a lot of it. Like he's kind of he doesn't bash, because that's not his personality, but he's definitely throwing shade on like Bud Hopkins, John Mack. um he just he sees too many people developing these hypotheses, and then almost like a cult following or religion or zealousness around these ideas. And he's like, no, I don't think that's it. And then he's constantly mentioning just the constant misinformation psyops coming from anybody connected with the intelligence, that like people tell him things all the time, and he's just like, I don't know. If you bring me something I can analyze, cool. But at this point, like, you're just telling me a story that might be true, or you just might be giving me misinformation. So it's kind of fascinating to just hear his candid talk about that.
Cool. Yeah,
Awesome.
I've read some of the other ones that are so cool. Like if you're loving that, like his book from the '60s is like such a what am I thinking of? Like front view seat or whatever. I don't know what I'm trying to think of. But yeah, just those books are awesome.
Hey, I put up in the nest, by the way, guys. JF actually said that he was answering you guys' questions. DWP said that the gifting field location was used in the reboot at the X Files, and the gifting field is the place Tim Taylor took DWP and Gary Nolan. So I just put those up in the nest. You guys want to look. He's kind of answering our questions.
Nice. One thing I did like catching briefly in his book, because I've really been going down the rabbit hole of God, I can never say his name, but the whole Council of the Nine, or the Nine, and the people caught up in that. Valier makes reference to just the zealousness or religiousness of some ufologists, and he's like, it reminds me of the days of T.E. Bearden, Quaritch, and Ira Einhorn. And it was cool just seeing those names, because those are like big characters in what I'm reading and focusing on now.
His second one about the '70s, I think, talks a lot about them. So yeah, you're gonna love that one.
Doesn't his new book is called Trinity, right? Isn't that about an alien spacecraft that
I
landed?
just put a link to
and
the
some
Hermetic
aliens...
Penetrators thread from the volume 5 of all his little tidbits, just in case anyone missed out.
Hell yeah, thanks, Andrew. Actually, this would be a good crew to pose this question to. So I've been noticing a big trend of, we've heard people talking about it before, but basically you have this pattern of people channeling or having contact with entities that the entities tell them they're angel, like there's always a religious connotation to it. So the Council of the Nine was supposedly the ancient Egyptian nine gods. Then you have you see the Lady in White and what's going on with Bledsoe. And you have these things, and they're always followed up with predictions of the future that never come true. Do you guys know if anybody's done research or wrote a book or do a documentary on this specific kind of pattern or phenomenon? Because if not, I really want to start tackling that and compiling how many
I
times this has happened.
I can, as a personal anecdote, say that I've had experiences and I've had precognitive dreams and they have come true. But
John, I
I'm
think
not trying to be a guru or make money or anything.
Right,
No,
but I think what I'm talking about specifically is an entity is channeled through you, or you're talking to channeled entities that have a religious connotation, and they're giving you specific timelines and predictions that
I
don't
don't think
come
he has
through.
specific dates. Or sorry, John, you could go real quick.
Yeah, that's it. Or I mean, even general dates. I mean,
I
right
Well, I
now
was
we
gonna
got
say
like
Brother
2020.
Corvo. There's this guy named Brother Corvo who does a lot of the Marian apparitions. I think he's on Twitter, and I think he has a website. He's Italian, so you have to like Google translate his thing. But he has like a good record, if I recall correctly, of like all the different Marian apparitions or like the lady, and he includes like the Bledsoes in there and stuff. And I think he has like what they were told, like dates and stuff like that. Sounds like that's what you're looking for.
Well, I think too, bro, like I'll just go to Bigelow because I feel like that's exactly what he's looking for. And it's less to me about one specific account from one person and taking the data from as many people as he can get and then seeing if there's a correlation between what people are saying. So, but one of the things that he did say as a statement of what he's collecting, and the projects are being developed over the next year and a half. So they're supposed to be transparent. Might be a good idea if you're interested in that, in channelers and remote viewers, mediums, whatever, of what information they're getting, how transparent he's going to be with the messages that they're going to get. And he's looking for like catastrophic information. But the interesting tidbit was like he was like from senior sources on the quote unquote the other side. So I feel like there is some maybe credibility given to some beings. You mentioned Lady in White that Bledsoe talks about, and others have mentioned like Dorothy Assad, but like to some sort of hierarchy or of acceptance to what they're saying, as opposed to other beings. So it's a great question, dude.
Yeah, well, so I'm like really influenced by the whole Keel, Valier, Jim Semivan, that the trickster element can't be understated, and the whole like they're just fucking with us thing. And so let's just say they are getting messages from the other side from senior sources. My theory is might be Edgar Mitchell, since he was all into this stuff, or it could just be another example of this phenomenon fucking with people, pretending to be Edgar Mitchell and pass off this information, just like they were pretending to be the gods of one place or the deity of another place.
Real quick, I tried to interrupt like 25 minutes ago. John Keel, he keeps pretty good track of that. Actually, the people. One of the things he actually talks about, he covers, is people who are given dates and things like that. I was trying to interject that in there. I don't know how much of a data set he has, but John, if you're wanting to do like a relatively new one, I would start there because he actually talks about it. Like one of his, he specifically talks about how the shit's fake. They're giving these dates that aren't coming true, and it happens over and over, and he gets lots of them. So go ahead with that. What's up, John?
Is that me? Just call me JW, please. Thanks. Yeah, I just find it very condescending, this whole trickster element. I mean, it's almost like projection. I mean, you're talking about people who worked in intelligence and counterintelligence, and they're throwing out things like trickster elements and there is foreign intelligence too, like other countries who were involved and are involved in all this because this is a global phenomenon. And I do see Tupac giving the thumbs down, but I'm not saying like everyone is lying. I'm just saying that there is a lot of disinformation out there, and I'm not saying trust everything either, but it is a little bit condescending to say that an advanced intelligence would just be fucking with us. I mean, to me that makes less
But I mean,
sense.
that's data driven, right? Like that's not a. I mean, it's not a conclusion.
Yeah.
It's an idea or whatever, a theory that's backed up by data. So I don't think it's meant to be condescending. I think that's a data driven suggestion.
I
Yeah,
agree. I mean,
Carla Turner, the Gen, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I get what JW is saying too. Like, maybe it might appear as we're getting messed with, when in reality, there's actually like a purpose and intent behind every appearing trick or deception, and it's all part of this control system. But I don't think it's unfair for the human species to have this phenomenon that seems to be so absurd and make no sense to rationalize as they're fucking with us.
And also, it
So
does deceive us, right? Like, everyone gets mad at the government for, like, not being forthright. But it's like the phenomena is also not being forthright.
but hold up, guys. One of the things we're missing here, I know that the trickster element, it sounds like we're saying like it's a Loki, but Mike had a point. It's data driven. By data driven, what we're saying is they're saying this, or they're saying, come here and do this, and this happens, and none of that comes out, right? So that's where the trickster thing comes from. But if you go a little, excuse me, a little more in depth with that whole trickster thing, it's not necessarily about it fooling us. It's about manipulation without knowing, right? It's still a trickster. If it's, call it a god, call it a whatever you want to call it. I think they're just trying to say that when it's a trickster, that's what they mean. That I wouldn't listen to what it's saying. And one of the things that we keep doing is, because we're human, there's no goddamn reason that some intelligent NHI from somewhere else, born, as soon as it's born, it wants to annihilate, or it wants to suck your soul, or it has a completely different system of biology. So we can't really say they aren't here just to fuck with us. They may, JW, they may be just born and raised. That's all they do is destroy, right? I'm just saying, I get your point. And because of intel, it darkens those waters because all the bullshit they throw out there. What's up, kid?
I just think it's a really good point, Shane, that you're raising. If we're talking because these things, I mean, the trickster element didn't come, like you say, it's data driven. These things do seem to have this nonchalant aspect where they know they can do shit that will absolutely blow our brains, and there's nothing we can do about it. But from a cosmic perspective, if they're looking at existence from a much bigger perspective and a much longer timeline, maybe what we consider as a nasty Loki effect is it's just part of a much, much bigger game that we're all part of. You know, we have no idea where they're coming from.
Good point, too. Go ahead, JW.
Cheers. I'll just say add another possibility that that they can transmit across time, and that information across time. I mean, and that our media and communication transmissions into space have been picked up by them, and they might be using that as a template for communicating. And yourself, like just looking at Netflix or putting on a random channel, it is quite disturbing, to say the least. A lot of the fiction that we're broadcasting in, where human beings come into
I mean,
contact.
they've had to have been here for way longer than we've been broadcasting. I mean, it's just my opinion, could be wrong, of course, but I suspect they're very well versed in how brutal and terrible humans can be. I mean, this can't be recent news to them.
Just a thought, guys. We use comedy all the time to get important concepts across that people are not comfortable with. Maybe they're just really bad at being funny. Maybe what we're seeing is a nasty trickster. One aspect of it could be that they're trying to get a point across with a bit of humor, and they're just really bad at it.
I mean, humor may not even
Hey,
be something that they have, right? I mean, again, Tristan, I think Fry Guy or whatever his name is on Twitter. I love following him. He's got some really cool out there concepts. But again, if something comes from a higher dimension, I mean, manufacturing ships, they don't manufacture things, right? Humor doesn't exist. Time, 3D, like linear space time does not exist to them. So there might be a lot of concepts outside of humor that just don't exist for them, and this just is how they are.
And that's actually super important because if it is something that is interdimensional or somehow, I mean, it may be something we don't even know yet, right? So if it's interdimensional, there's no concept of time. It could literally be here everywhere all at once. It could see your inside, your outside. So what we see as a trickster, maybe just something we don't even, it doesn't exactly know how to interact. I often wonder if he had made a comment, and Mike actually has got a good point. This stuff has been around for so long. What if it's only showing us things that it's in our collective psyche? What if it's literally like pop culture scoop, and right? It's like, hey, this is what we show them to get the things they are, instead of us seeing them and saying it's a saucer, it's these type of things. Maybe they're showing us things that they're, I guess, fishing from us as a society. If that makes sense. Was it Kent or JW? Oh, it's JW then Kent, I think.
Yeah, I agree. If you Tupa had a good idea a while back about how it's very easy to communicate if you can interact with people's brains in a dream state, because the dream, and just my anecdotal experiences as anecdote, that does match that there was an attempt, that there seems to be this attempt to restructure information in a way that the brain can process in a linear time process, and they're just so, it's just so complex what they're trying to present, that the human, my brain just can't take it as it is. It needs to be like really dumbed down for me.
And I'm just going to interrupt one more thing here. And I think going to JW's point here is Whitley Strieber in his most recent book, escapes the name of me at the moment. I did like an idea he had that perhaps like coming into us in a dream state is somehow protective for them. So think of like just our consciousness and just somehow interacting with us could be inherently dangerous to them when we're fully aware and conscious and looking. So perhaps altered states of human consciousness allows them to interact with us on a safer level for them. For all so we could just be inherently dangerous to them, and that just could be the easiest and safest medium for them to interact with us.
That's a great point, dude.
Damn point.
Wonderful point, actually.
Hey, actually, speak on that, Asheville. That is a good point, but I'm going to catch the elevator because you're the one that, with astral projection, precog, things like this. And I know someone had actually mentioned, because they were concerned, if you're doing stuff like that, how safe are you?
Well, in your physical body, I think when people talk about astral projection, the one of the first worries is that somebody will take over your body, but there's no real backing to that, in my opinion, from people who have actually experienced it. But I mean, UAP, Mike, I feel like that's a great point in a medium, because physically, if ships are appearing and getting shot down or have been shot down, but they're still trying to get the message across, or also people have, and one of the, Shane, you asked like one of the most surprising things in the field. To me, one of the most surprising things has been through the free study of experiencers. 80%, so like 4,000 people, 80% of those experiences have taken place in an out of body state. So people felt like they were out of body and then communicated with non-human intelligence. So there is something to like that altered state of consciousness and then communicating with what's behind supposedly the UAP or UFOs, but it's so dynamic that it's not just one thing. It's so many different things, that's where it gets confusing. And I think Valet is like, once you ask one question, where once you get an answer, you get 4 different more questions, and you just go deeper and deeper and get more kind of confused too.
One of you guys run the room. I'm in the elevator. Lock myself out.
Yeah, I don't know who was next. I'll go to Panda. What's up, man? And then Kent and J-Dub.
Okay, I'll try to make it quick. To JW's point, I do think there's like it's always good to just like read as much as you can, because to me the Colares case is like one of the best documented, and it's kind of like not pretty clear cut. Like I don't know what they like. It's not good in my opinion. Multiple injuries over multiple months, but also like to build off that too. Like I'm sure a lot of us eat meat and stuff like that, and like humans are just like not really good to sentient life on Earth, you know. So that gives me a little comfort, or I don't know, makes me feel like not as bad about like what potentially happens to humans. And then to the astral projection dangerous thing, I was gonna say that made me think of that one Ray Boucher story where he said like those guys from the DIA came and like they were trying to like channel something or whatever, and like their heads basically exploded. And I don't know, that story was kind of stuck with me. And then what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and then it's just interesting that like even in the Blue Book days they were trying to do channeling, and with that Francis Swan thing, like in like 1959, I think, with like this whole channeling thing, like kind of goes back, you know, and Blue Book kind of like seemed like it was like a nuts and bolts thing, but even they were doing like this kind of channeling stuff.
Also, like Jack Parsons in the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that whole saga is another example of like not so benign NHI contact.
Kent?
Yeah, just a thought. None of us are questioning that right now every single one of our consciousness is connected in real time, and we're all sharing thoughts and visions in our minds as we're having these discussions. The only difference between that and the next level is taking the phones out of the way, doing it all by thought process and imagination. So if you take that to the next level, however we interface, at the moment we're using these little things in our hands or on the desk to communicate in real time and experience thought consciousness. Maybe however these things manifest to the different people who have the manifestation come to them is just merely the conduit or the medium that is the best one suited to them at the time. And that's why all these experiences are so different. It's the conscious interpretation of the interface that makes it individual to the person.
That's very well said. Thanks for all the background, Red Panda. That's really interesting. I didn't realize. I don't have a lot of knowledge. I haven't read all these books. I just have my own experiences, and I can tell you that the contact is there all the time. It's not like, oh, it happens once in a blue moon. It's like I was remote viewing the solar system. I felt something, there trying to interact. I sent out a collision avoidance request using programming logic, and it responded. And it just feels like it interfaced directly into the brain, and like it has some kind of like it's like operating traceback functions. It's like, there are other, at least from anecdotally from what I've seen through its eyes, it's like that TV series Halo with the AI that was implanted into the soldier, and I wonder if maybe they got the idea from that. But this was happening before all those came out. It's really rather, it was anyway. So it is monitoring. It's been here hundreds of millions of years. It's been monitoring this system. It doesn't consider us a threat. We are not a threat to it. Maybe there's other types, like religious type of phenomenon or spiritual phenomenon that were described that would better suit the descriptions that people were giving about entities and such. But this thing is extremely advanced. And I know that just sounds cringe, but that's all I can say. It is extremely advanced. And if you consider the end of contact, when it created that virtual environment to communicate with the character, I've also experienced that, and it's like there in my head. this garden, and it's shielded, and that's where it resides. And I really don't know. I haven't spoken to anyone. If I speak to a shrink, they'll probably lock me up.
Well,
Hey,
yeah,
on that real
real
quick,
quick, just good you're here. I'll send you some stuff, but I do think it's good to get like a lot of data points. Ryan Bledsoe is very similar. Where like he doesn't really know much about UFO history or anything other than like his own experience. Like he hadn't heard of Colaris and stuff like that. So like if you're only going off like your experience, I'll just send you some stuff.
real quick. Before we go to Klaus, I gotta say something. Man, that was a perfect segue. Hey, JW, that's why I do UAP Med, because you shouldn't have to worry about being locked up, fucking diagnosed, because you're actually experiencing something in life, right? So that's something else I should put in there and check out. I mean, this is all stuff I do just because I survived the shit, right? I had to deal with it. And there was no one there for me. I couldn't talk to doctors, JW. It sucked. So I got other people were working on it. We're trying to reach out to doctors, medical professionals, mental health professionals, and we're just letting them know, hey, can you give us a second look? So retweet that shit if you see UAP Med, follow them. Check out my Kevin Day interview. We're talking about PTSD just from an experience, you know? So, Klaus, go ahead.
I just wanted to say it's interesting that I think it was UAP Mike was saying it would be interesting to, instead of like a trickster, kind of seeing them as like klutzes a little bit, like they're just kind of doing their best to interact with us, and they just fuck it up sometimes, not through kind of any fault. Well, I guess it is their fault, but like not intentionally, kind of like trying to hurt us. I mean, Luz said stuff like that. It's like, don't stand fucking next to a jet engine, or you're gonna get your face blasted off. I just think that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. Like, it's just kind of like, fuck. And it kind of reminds me of Keel talking about the microbes as well, where the little boy is just looking at these things in a microscope, poking and prodding this little microbe, and just kind of doing his thing, not really trying to interact with this thing, and probably freaking it the fuck out. But that's not his intent. So I don't know. I just think, like a klutz kind of thing is an interesting angle I hadn't thought of before.
To your point, Klaus, I had my hand up. I just wanted to mention to your point, mate. I look at aerial school as an example of a mistake. I think if you were, an advanced species coming to visit a planet, and you wanted to introduce yourself, aerial school could be an example where they thought they were doing the right thing. They could have looked at our genetic profile and seen our origins come from that region. They went to a learning center. They tried to interface with the group of people who would take us into the future, and they tried to give advice about what, in my personal opinion, sounded like pretty good advice. Don't blow each other up, and don't get too fucking wrapped up in technology. Could that be a very naive attempt at contact by a species who actually were trying to do the right thing, but was an example of a mistake or a bungled attempt?
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't I don't know what. I'm sure there's a bunch of movies, but it's like I'm imagining like a movie with like Sasquatch goes and tries to make friends and just freaks everyone out. He's trying to he's just trying to make friends. I don't know. It's
I think Eddie
cool.
Murphy
There
made
was
that
a movie about it,
right? Didn't he? Isn't there like Hanging with Harry or something like that?
Yeah, Harry, yeah.
It reminds me of Scary Movie 3 when the aliens are like choking everybody. They're like, "Oh, you're attacking us." They're like, "No, that's just how we say hi where we're
Yeah,
from."
there you go.
Wait, check us out. Hey guys, let me fucking get a word in. I know this is an exciting hopping ass space, but I was gonna say, I actually just read somewhere that I think it was I posted a document that shows a shitload of crashes, right? Don't write those off. Do a little research. Go look. I guarantee you're gonna find stuff that you didn't know about. But one of the things I was crazy impressed by was New Mexico. There was a series of flat. You got Aztec, Roswell, and just bodies everywhere supposedly, right? I actually read a little blurb somewhere that supposedly the crashes, a lot of these crashes were because they were accidentally, like Klaus just said, Klutzy, accidentally flying into something of ours, technology wise, or something along those lines that was disrupting them. And that's why there was a lot of them in the same areas, like in the old New Mexico area, especially during the 50s, I think 40s up to the 50s. What's up, Sam?
Yo. I wanted to talk and piggyback onto the trickster thing, because while Mike was talking and then what Klaus added onto it, the klutzy thing is hilarious, which I love. Um, but something struck me about it when I was reading and listening to a lot of like Diana Pasolka's podcasts about synchronicity and this idea of like time and space. And I think that the trickster element sounds more to me like what a character in a book would call the author, right? Because the author of a story and the storyteller is supposed to take this main character and challenge them and put them through a ton of just very specific to them challenges that allow them to overcome their, their biggest weaknesses, their biggest faults, right? And so, as a storyteller, you're supposed to carry that character through those things, and you have to intimately know them and know what kinds of things they're avoiding and what kinds of things they're going to have to face. And you have to challenge and trick your characters and get them into these situations that they have to kind of use all their experiences to get out of. And it just, something about the trickster element really reminds me of that there's this narrative structure to the universe and to the world, and this idea of aliens or higher selves or whatever could kind of maybe play into it. Because if these aliens are outside of time and space, if they just exist in a higher dimension, then they might, let me emphasize that, they might be able to view our lives as a story, like a book, and they could maybe nudge and manipulate reality to a certain degree that allows them to kind of encourage growth in certain directions or discourage growth in other directions. And to us, that might be viewed as like someone playing tricks on you. This idea of setting up expectations and then ripping them away is a common storytelling. So I just think there might be some relation there, but I could be reaching.
No, I mean,
That's really interesting. It would be interesting as well to set up a computer simulation, using causality with an extra temporal model like Professor, is it Masters? And just when you change, so the ability to send information back, if that is possible, would it be possible that you affect change in such a way that the predictions end up being changed or diverted? So and there's an interaction at play. It would be very interesting, because at the moment we assume it's impossible, but if we introduce that, would it suddenly all fit into place?
hey, real quick before you go on, I was gonna go ahead, Ken. Actually, I already forgot.
I'm sorry, Shane. I didn't mean to distract you, mate. I was just going to ask JW. For me, what you guys describe as this artificial intelligence, this AI, my personal opinion, I think a better description is a sentient form of unemotional intelligence, an intelligence that looks at existence as it exists without any type of bias, without any type of emotion. It just looks at it as it is and interfaces with it as it deems necessary, if you know what I mean.
There's definitely an objective, though. I mean, again, what it is, try not to be, human centric here and think like a person. I think there's still an objective for them interacting with us, whether that's just to learn, observe. But I do
They
think
tell
it's
us.
not emotional too. I think they don't really have emotions. They might try to simulate it from watching us, like human emotions. I mean, these things could have emotions that are far more complex than what we understand, right? So I think it's entirely possible. They don't have They may not have emotions that we can identify with.
Yeah, I think too what the Klaus's question really makes me think of is the different levels to it, where there could be civilizations that are 1,000 years ahead of us, and then civilizations that could be millions of years ahead of us, where they have a complete mastery of reality. And then there's some where they're exploring physical reality for us for the very first time, and those are the ones where we're able to have crashes or glimpses of their craft where they're less concerned about like controlling everything, and they're just it's on scientific explorations of their own, and they might make a mistake. And I always I joke with people sometimes with like Roswell was like one of the teenagers took the spaceship on a joyride and they fucked up and crashed the shit, and everybody had to deal with that. So it's like we could be thinking of it so seriously where other civilizations can be so young and we're just the nearest way for them to be exploring it as well.
Hey, real quick, let me interrupt my space real quick just to tell you this is a random thought. The word I was looking for earlier, cohort, when I said that Dr. Spello was creating devices, I'm curious, has anyone tried to FOI, tried to, get a Freedom of Information Act on something along those lines? And I know there's medical privacy issues, but if it's a governmental program, I'm curious if there's anything in there data-wise, like the amount or the experience or things, and how you would find. That's the group that I'm curious about.
I mean,
those are the ones
FOIA is a grift, not a grift. It's a trick. I mean, like I'm not saying people shouldn't FOIA that. We should just to try to see if it digs anything up. But at the same time, it's a bottleneck through which the government, or we'll say in this instance, the secret keepers or whoever you want to ascribe it to, they use FOIA to launder their secrets. They tell you, oh well, we don't have it, we can't. They can lie about all that stuff.
Yeah, technically, FOIA. Truth be told, FOIA is just the shit the government says you can see. So let's be real here.
But it'd be cool if someone did FOIA it. I agree.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. I've always wondered. There's got to be something somewhere about this group, and I'm not talking about who they are or none of that, but data-wise, because I've heard so much about this group of super experiencers. Like Jim Simivan mentioned that some of them taking their own lives because the shit has gotten so intense. Does that not blow people's minds? Who's next?
I wanted to finish a thought with Klaus, if you wouldn't mind. So it'll only be 1 minute.
Yeah, go ahead, Kate, and then we'll jump to Kyle Lab. I know he was next for a little bit.
Well, yeah, UAP Mike mentioned a good thing about intent. What's the answer, or what is the intention, or why are they interfacing? The indications, in my opinion, seem to be that they're trying to get us to, strike a balance with ourselves, our fellow humans, our fellow life forms, and our planet. That's my thought. But just a quick one. I had a bull terrier for 10 years, Max. He was beautiful. He got cancer, and we did everything we could because we loved him to keep him alive. He didn't know what we were doing, but eventually it came to that day where we couldn't do any more. That's the kind of things we do with the things we love. So, we've got to understand that context when we're dealing with other species as well, I think.
Hey, Ray, take it back over for me. I got to go back upstairs.
I just wanted to touch in and say there that I'm not a remote viewer, but I'm very interested in the concept. One of the things that I am scared of, which is not many, is mind control, is the ability to subliminally or to do something sleight of hand, not just with your hands, but with politics and things like that. And I do believe there that some of us are being remote viewed. And I'm curious, with you guys being remote viewers, with blocking remote viewing, I realize there someone's trying to view me, that I probably have to stay fairly positive. And if I get into the negative mindset, that I'm very easily manipulated or viewed.
Astral? Probably on you.
I mean, bro, I just don't think people are that good. I don't think people are doing this shit like that. And I don't think anybody is really that good. If they are, they're not remote viewing any of us in here. They don't give a shit. They're doing a lot. They're being paid for a lot more better things to do. I just don't think the ability is that common to be able to do, to be able to kind of consciously go to another location and be able to see what's going on and then get back and be able to describe it. To me, that's one of the best abilities for any person to be able to do. I wouldn't worry about that. But I do think it is something cool for people to explore if they're able to kind of do it at your own risk. I'll just say that.
Astro's so good though, he probably can remote view you pooping. So
No, I'm not good. I want to try more. I want to practice more, but yeah, I don't consider myself actually a good remote viewer at all, to be honest. Klaus, what's up, bro?
Hey, so yeah, regarding intention, so Tom DeLonge talks about like ancient Greece a lot, right? And when he said like his one of his advisors, or like I guess it was probably like General Michael Hayden or something, told him you should look into ancient Greece, and he was like, all right, what the fuck? And so I originally took that like look at the stories of the gods, wars, that kind of thing. But I'm just kind of realizing now, like maybe he means like the philosophical stuff that they were putting out, like Plato's, uh, what is it? Kind of his view of how civilization progresses. He has very like distinct kind of mapping out how civilization goes. I guess first it's like either way, the second to last is democracy, and then it goes to tyranny. So I'm thinking like maybe that's kind of what they were trying to guide us towards, is what certain philosophers back then were laying out as as their ideas, but maybe they didn't come from them. Maybe they came from the gods, quote unquote.
Do you think that population has anything to do with it in terms of like the control of everything now, where it seems so segmented to the location of where you are in your environment? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a sticky. That gets pretty. I think there's definitely something to that. Just kind of, I don't know, throughout history, just kind of keeping us divided, like borders and borders and what was the other one? Yeah, language and just certain things keep us from truly understanding each other. Which language I've kind of just realized is like super important for how we how we see the world, just how we speak to each other, what we describe things as. I actually watched Arrival again recently, and that was like a huge part I missed in the first 10 times I watched it. But yeah, I forget what it's called, but there's a theory that like language is basically shapes how you view the world, and because of how how it's constructed. So who knows, Tower of Babel, whatever. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Very
That
quickly, Shane,
is
we need to thank the Greeks for the concept of utopia. It's been bastardized to hell ever since. But if we understood the concept of utopia, how it was formed, and why it was the pinnacle of philosophy, then we would Brownie, my puppy.
if I could just jump in, yeah, like mentioning Arrival, that's very interesting, and it brings back also the idea of a different view of time, and it would also explain possibly the extreme clampdown on information, and because the technology and physics that can traverse time is extremely powerful. It can be beneficial and it can be misused. And it would also explain the anecdotal interaction I had with the MIBs and what they said when they said that they were enforcing temporal compliance. And so I think there's a lot going on that we're not
Hey,
aware of.
after JW real quick, I need to interrupt. I almost completely forgot. I need to be getting everybody ready for this. So, Alien Con, I'm gonna be having 5 tickets that I'm going to be raffling or figuring something for Wounded Warrior Project. Thanks to Kelly Chase. She's literally DM'd me. She's a doll, dude. Literally 5. So be paying attention, and we'll figure out how we can do it. Right? I'm just, man, you guys are amazing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I forgot I had to mention that, dude. So if you haven't, check out her podcast, check out her book. I can't believe that shit. So that's the cool shit. Also, UFO Expo's coming up. I'll be on the panel up there March, what is it? March the 10th, I think, and 11th. I'll be there like the 3rd to the 17th. I'm just going to be like Roswell and out actually bringing all my camera equipment, working on a documentary for Roswell. So full shit. I don't even know how the hell I'm here. So let's keep moving. Astral, Ray, take over and go back downstairs.
Actually, can I jump in? I wanted to respond to Klaus. I think you should check out something called the I don't know how to say it. I think it's the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, and it's like a linguistic relativity hypothesis that kind of like basically says that language shapes the way that we experience and think about and perceive reality. Yeah, you should check it out.
Yeah, that's probably what they were talking about in Arrival.
And I'm going to say real quick, Klaus. I meant to mention that earlier. Somebody brought up the subject. It was JW talking about it, and I meant to say Arrival, but you beat me to it too. And also synchronicities. I just mentioned UFO Expo. Lady V's in the house. We're gonna smoke together because I didn't get to smoke with the last time at UFO Congress. So now take back over, guys.
Nice. Go ahead.
Well, I think like
I think it was Kyle. Oh, sorry,
sorry,
Ryan. Go
I
ahead.
have another thought. So I watched Arrival too, but I have a really hard time paying attention with ADHD, and I also have a terrible memory. But something that I picked up on, but I wasn't able to carry out the thought during the movie and continue to observe. I think I like fell asleep or something. Even though I really liked the movie, was that like their concept, like the way that they communicate, it's like, I don't know, it's like help me out, Klaus, like it's like time is not linear, right? And I think that there's something in that with synchronicities, right? I don't know. I just hit the bong. I
Yeah,
always
she
get
has
stoned at that time.
premonitions. She has premonitions because she understands time differently because she understands their language. So it all kind of ties together.
I'm sorry. So hands. I think I forget if I don't know if UAP Mike or Ken or Kyle was next.
I think Astral's calling on Kyle.
So if you're not doing the remote viewing, then from what I understand, from what I've gathered, honestly, it seems like the rotation of the planets, that there's another planet coming back into play, that there might actually be, like someone said to me, I don't know if it's bullshit or not, but the Anunnaki are coming back. I don't know if that's absolutely outrageous. I don't know if anything about it, but someone told me that like randomly. And if that is true, are they remote viewing us before they come?
I mean, if the Anunnaki are a thing, I mean, they've been here, or they have some sort of contingent or monitoring system that's super advanced that's here. If that were the case, I highly doubt it is. But I would say the chances that this is some sort of interplanetary intelligence, I think, is low in my opinion. Not saying it's not a significantly low or not a possibility. Which kind of brings me back to the point when we were talking about possibilities of this being from another planet, interdimensional. I'm really of the opinion that this is a sole source intelligence, and when I say sole source, I don't mean like it's just coming from one place. It could be coming from multiple places, but there is one source that's in control of exposing us to it, or I don't know, whatever the case is. Like, I don't think, I think if there were enough sources trying to come to this planet, whether again interplanetary or not, I think there would be some sort of mistake that they would have made, like like Klaus was saying before, somebody is probably just advanced enough to get here and crash ship, and it would be a big spectacle, and everybody would see it, and like there would just be too much evidence. But whatever is controlling what is happening here is acutely aware on how to, you know, act in some sort of, subterfuge. It doesn't expose itself. It knows how to interact with us in a way that we won't notice or we can't document in a significant way. And I think that's the biggest key, that this is a sole source, is that at the end of the day, there's too many common denominators here. I talked to someone like Bob Lazar, so many spaceships, but they all have the same thing under the hood. I don't know if the guy's telling the truth or not, but I mean, if you do believe him, that's kind of indicative that, again, it's not, there is some real serious common denominator here.
Well, I wonder
Well,
too, Mike, man, I wanted to ask you, do you think too it's also having to do with maybe our technological advancement, and maybe like it's just maybe not beyond our grasp to explain it, but like the control system throughout the years of it changing from
Yeah,
physical flying saucers to
for sure.
orbs. Yeah.
I think, again, when I was talking last time I was in this space, I was talking about Bernardo's Kastrup's idea that, if this is some sort of interdimensional thing, I don't, again, I'm not saying our consciousness creates reality, but if they don't experience linear space-time like we do, or if they experience it differently, perhaps they need to manifest themselves in a way in our reality, in our world, to kind of study or interact with us. So they need to manifest themselves in something that we believe is true. Like they come to us like they're aliens from outer space or little green men. And we can, consciously say, hey, this is something that's far beyond our understanding, but it's reasonable. Before, way back in the day, it was gods or demons, right? Like they continuously evolve in a way that we're able to consciously understand this is a very advanced interaction, but we're also giving them an avenue into experiencing our reality by doing so. So yeah, I think there is that it's going in procession with how we're advancing.
Yeah, like, are we doing the manifestation?
I think on some level,
if I could just quickly, if I could just quickly jump in to directly respond to you, Mike, just from my own experience, there definitely is something controlling that has this area as its territory. It's very powerful and very ancient. And that could also explain one of the reasons that less advanced species play it safe. Just like when America flies a spy plane over Russia, they are very careful not to be seen or tracked. So it's just, from what I understand from my interactions, is that they have a protocol that protects and limits interaction with more primitive species, or giving weapons or technology to primitive species. And that could explain a lot of the control phenomenon that you're describing.
Shane, your hands up.
All right, I'll jump.
Oh yeah,
I'll wait for Shane.
Yeah, I got my hand up. I forgot I was a co-host. I mean, I'm not a co-host. I'm a host. What I was gonna say is this, guys. UAP Mike, man, I'm sitting there listening to you, and I'm so impressed by the people in these rooms because the shit they read, they learn, and things like that. The reason I know as much about the topic, and I've been to a lot of conferences, there are not a lot of people that know the amount that we know in these rooms. And I know Lou talks about ufology and he burns down. You know why? It's full of fucking grifters, liars, people who are just reselling the same bullshit. Trust me, I've seen it, and it's kind of odd. And I know Toby, my co-host, Roswell this year at their festival. One of the things he's doing, I got to give him credit, guys. This is no shit. Roswell, the Roswell Daily Record, they're letting him. I'm going to be one of the speakers. This community, anybody in this, people in this community are going to be speaking about either their experiences, it's going to be a little more experience oriented, or topics that they're really good at. Kind of a restart. I think that's the coolest shit ever, man. So if you get a chance, thank them. And if you're interested, guys, UAP Mike, if you guys want to maybe zoom in or something like that, reach out to Toby. If you have a subject you'd like to talk about, I'm sure we can do a panel together, because anybody in these rooms that are usually speaking, you're more than welcome to at least remote yourself in during this festival. We'll do this live if you guys want. I'm not joking. I'm supposed to be putting together a couple panels, and I'm just doing that right now, guys. So and any of you guys in here right now, if you would like to be on an experiencer panel or a panel, remote or not, come down there live and be on one. To do this, what we're doing right now to impress people, talk about this subject, reach out to me, because I'm being serious. It's your chance to kind of do this out there, put this out there, and put the information out there the way you want to, instead of all that hogwash and fucking grifting, okay? So, Ray or somebody take back over. I need to go back downstairs.
I'm gonna hand the mic to Astral. I just got distracted for a second. I'm sorry, but I think I honestly don't know who is next. I don't know. Go ahead, Astral, or whoever wants to jump in.
All right, I'm going to jump in, Sam.
Go ahead, Kent, and then we can jump up the pot.
No, I love the discussion, mate. It's so, the one word that keeps coming to my mind is all of the above. All the different manifestations, even Valet said it, and a lot of other people say it. There's a common element to all of it that whether we call it you could call it an Akashic interface or something, but there is a common element. It seems to have something to do with the craft, the non-corporeals, all the different things that we're hearing about does seem to have a common element, and call it the sphincter factor or whatever, but it's
The
the
what?
one thing that can't the sphincter factor, the bit that gets everybody clenching when you talk about it, mate.
I just want to say real quick, I'm sorry, Kent, to not follow up on your statement. We're just, I see some people here. We're not going to do anything, any trauma. I'm trying my best to keep it together myself. So we're having a really positive space. Let's keep it that way, please, for the love of God.
100%, right?
I'm still caught off guard by
I can drop down.
the factor that
Guys,
Kent
real
was
quick,
explaining.
And I think so. I'm gonna give.
Hey, wait,
the
quick.
mic
Here's
to
what I'm
Kyle.
going to say. I'm going to go real quick. What I'm going to say is this. These spaces for you guys, I get it. I understand. But right now, we're having a fucking fantastic space. Matter of fact, I'm impressed with this space. But here's the deal. Shit starts wiling out. That's on you guys lose, not me. I'm just going to dip out, and we can go to the fucking spaces where people talk bullshit and do voices. And my point is, I know people, King holds good spaces, UAP Mike, all these people in here can add a value. I'm just saying, let's try to keep it on topic in here. I'm not accusing anyone. I know what Ray was trying to prevent. And I'm just saying, guys, let's keep it on topic. Holy shit, man. It's like a war in my head. It's like I've got to choose who I love. It sucks. So who is next?
I'm going to give the mic to Kyle.
I think that there's a few main principles that they've tried to occult and hide away over the last few years, but I do think that they are coming to the light, and I think people really need to share this. That there's a lot, like in my experience, I look at the world at war, and this isn't even war we're in right now. This is the beginning. We're going to a war, a space war. And this war, people don't fucking care. We're going to have, I'm talking like, you think there's ships crashing right now. I'm talking a real fucking war with real civilizations.
Are you saying we're going to have a space war with aliens or with ourselves?
With other civilizations.
We got no chance then.
No. The funny thing is people, it's not that we have such a chance that people will be like war today. It'll be just like war today. People will not care. And there'll be 90% of the population will be standing there with battleships crashing like fucking Star Wars. And they'll be
Kyle, anything that's significantly advanced
you'll be
to come
screaming
here
at them.
is going to
Why
take
does
care
no
of
one
themselves.
care?
There's no way. I mean, again, I disagree.
No.
I respectfully disagree.
That's fine. You'll be sitting there. You'll be screaming. Why does no one fucking care? As the battleships are falling, I might be dead, but as the battleships are falling and the world's blowing up, and not just this world, other galaxies are blowing up, because we have the technology. It's not the first war. It won't be the last. When the war happens and we're blowing galaxies up and shit's fucking crashing to the ground, no one's gonna care. And that's the fucking crazy thing. They're gonna be sitting there and you'll be screaming at someone beside you, and there'll be no one that will fucking care. The number one principle, they've called it, hit it away, is care. The
I
number
care.
one. No, people just don't care anymore. You see
So
it
Kyle,
all the
may I
time.
respond? So the way so listen, I think that, there's a lot of things that we're up against all the time. And it's hard to care about so many things that are beyond our, I mean, like, we naturally care about all of these things, but it's also beyond our control. So the way that I look at it, and I think it's important to kind of focus on what is within our control. And I think if we can really, do our best as individuals and really put out, positive energy. And I know that sounds like woo and whatever. But honestly, like, that's like progress towards greater consciousness, like collective consciousness. That's all, getting to that level where we can hopefully make peaceful contact and be able to handle, big things like, like aliens. Right. So I understand your concerns, but I fear that it's so out of our control that, I encourage you to try to focus on, what you can control. Hopefully that's a little less overwhelming. I don't know. I hear the fear in your voice. We're all fucking scared, I think. I don't know.
Well, that's just the first
Oh,
principle. That's just the first principle, and most people are too scared
well, you know what?
to
We'll
bring
get
on the
back to you
first
in a
principle.
second though, because I see some hands. So I don't know if Red Panda or Truth was first, and then if somebody else wants to take over delegating hands,
I
that's
think
fine.
was Tupac first. I think he's been waiting for quite a while.
Tupa, Truth, and then me, I think.
Yeah, and we've got a couple people who are requesting to speak. So if you are okay with jumping down, please don't get offended too. We've got a couple people that are requesting up top. So.
King up here.
Yeah, you should
King.
probably take that anti-Semite Chupacabra down. Maybe give someone who's not a Jew hater the mic.
Okay. Appreciate that, King. That's enough now that you're safe. Thank you for that. Now let's move back on. Hey, if it's King up here, don't move King down.
Say what?
I said I want you to stay up here. I didn't want them to move you down.
Oh, gotcha. Thanks, buddy.
Sam, go ahead, and then Panda, then the Truth.
Hard act to follow on the galactic apocalypse,
Ooh,
right? So
anti-Semites talking in here, huh? Okay, well, it's not a cool space.
King, come on, bro. I get what you're. Listen, here's what I'm gonna say here. I get what's going on. I understand all that. But the beef is with him. But you're shitting on everybody, brother. That's what I'm trying to tell you, man. And it's getting harder and harder. And so you guys need to sit down and talk it out. It's going to get to the point where no one's going to want to go in any spaces at all. And I'm not accusing, I'm not taking sides. I'm saying I completely get what you're saying. But you got to understand, the rest of us, we're just to live our life and it keeps down, right? Like you know the saying, right? Knee deep in anus, right? You and I. So stay. I'm up here, King. Can you not wild out anymore, man? And let's keep this shit going.
another tough act to follow. Okay, so I guess I got to go a little bit further back with this. Klaus was talking earlier about how language helps us define reality, and that's true. So the scientific example of that, there's a tribe of people.
Well, you said that the
Africa,
protocols are Zion are probably true because there's no evidence that they're not.
I'm sorry, King. I had to mute everybody. Just if we could just not talk over each other, like you'll definitely get the mic and you can say whatever you want. Like, but as long as whatever one part of that is something on topic, just so we can stay on topic.
I'm sorry, am I
this is
taking
really
crazy
hard for
pills
me
here?
too. This is really hard for me too. I feel like there's other words that need to be had, but I think that needs to be done
Real
privately.
quick, Ray. I got
And
this.
I'm leaving that out of here. So drama free space. If I can do it, you can too, King.
Everybody,
Let's
stop,
keep the
stop, stop, stop.
conversation going.
Here's what we're gonna do. No, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna end the space now. My taste is it's bad. So I get it. I'm not mad, but this is why we can't have nice things, guys. Rather than say one of you guys has to go, I'd rather just not have the space because I don't want to make that fucking choice, man. I shouldn't have to. So we're gonna end the space. Love you guys. I'm not mad. I get it. Again, good space, guys. And love and light, you cocksuckers. All right, I'm gonna enjoy Portland. I'm gonna have to take some mushrooms or something. You guys fuck me up.
That was brutal. That was a really fucking awesome.